Boom. All right, everybody, what's going on? It's Coach Bronson here, and today I've got Keto Greg 80, also known as Coach Greg. We're going to talk about your fitness experience, Greg. We've known each other through social media for a while. We've met a couple of times at KetoCon. I know you've worked with Rob, but I've never really heard you tell your story, your background, where you're coming from, all that kind of stuff. So first off, tell us a little bit about you. I know you just happened to have done something last weekend that was fitness related. What was that all about?
Yeah, actually popped over to Omaha and competed in a NANBF Heartland Classic bodybuilding competition over there
Okay.
with a buddy Ben Seaman, and nailed it. It was fun. It was awesome. Like you said, I work with Robert Sykes as far as the prep protocol goes, but I have been living a ketogenic lifestyle for 9 years, give or take, and he'd helped me dial me in. So yeah, last weekend kicked some butt.
Awesome. Awesome. And how old are you again?
I'm 42.
Oh my God. How can you be in bodybuilding at 42? Are you still
Why not?
putting on muscle and you're doing it ketogenic? Oh my God, I don't understand.
Right, yeah. All the impossibilities, man. They all stack up against me, and I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
You can't build muscle when you're old. You can't build muscle on keto. You can't do things naturally. There's a lot of can'ts, but
Yeah, there are.
yep.
So what's your story? How'd you get into bodybuilding? You coach people like you're doing nutrition and prep. Did you do prep coaching too?
I haven't done any prep. It's pretty much the same protocol as far as like the Deeper State Keto prep protocol goes, or the dietary protocol goes, as it would be for a prep. So it's I can say that I haven't prepped anybody for an actual competition,
Sure.
but the path and the journey is the same way. So
Okay.
yep.
Cool. So what's your story? How'd you get into bodybuilding? And have you been doing it forever or just recently?
I dabbled in a little bit of weightlifting and hitting the gym way back all the way to right out of like high school. But
Okay.
way back in high school, I had no idea what I was doing. Kind of more or less just went there with some friends after school to keep us out of trouble and to really just kind of get motivated and be inspired by the big dudes in the gym at that time. Now looking back on it, those dudes that I was looking up to were probably my age now.
Yeah.
And so the younger guys at the gym now were me way back then. So
That's a really interesting perspective. That's a really interesting.
right. So it really helps me at the gym now when there's some younger guys or kids around, because that was me way back in the day. Like I didn't know what I was doing. I was watching the dudes at the gym. I was excited. They were cool. I wish I could learn a little bit from them guys. So anyways, way back in high school, I got into it, dabbled in it, didn't really know what I was doing. Not until probably, I would say maybe 15 years, 20 years ago was I really zoned in. Just did a little bit of personal training at an Anytime Fitness location here locally for a couple of years. And I guess the rest is history. Really just kind of honed my skill set and did a lot of research and self-experimentation and just learning along the way as far as what works and what doesn't.
Gotcha. Are you, when you're at the gym, you got these young kids running around, how often do you kind of chime in and go, hey, if you did this, if you do that, hey, why don't you try this? Or do they ever come up to you and ask you questions?
Yeah. I encourage young guys or girls to ask questions. If you see somebody in there that motivates or inspires you and you see them doing something that you want to know about or learn about, or it looks mysterious to you, go ask them. Like a lot of times they're willing to definitely share with you because that was us. But I try not to chime in as an unsolicited advice giver unless it looks like my advice will be well received, because I don't want to be the guy that's telling you how to do something unless there's an injury on the line. I'm going to probably keep my mouth shut unless you look like you're open to some advice or really excited to hear from somebody. Then I'll pop up and I'll say, hey, maybe try this, maybe try that. If you're going for a certain goal, maybe use this approach or whatever.
Yeah. The other thing is, I would say that goes for anybody who's in the gym. if you're a young person, if you're 90 years old and you're going for the first time and you see somebody doing something and you're not sure, or you're not sure if you're doing something and you see someone who looks like they know what they're doing, don't be afraid to ask. Like
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
the gym is one of those places where it's a rare circumstance to find somebody in the gym who's going to be a dick about somebody asking them a question. Right? We're there because we've been through the same thing. We're going through the same thing. We're there to try to make ourselves better. We're putting in the work, and we understand what it's like to start and not have any freaking clue what the hell we're doing. And a lot of people at the gym are like that, especially if you can tell by looking at them that they put in the work. If they put in the work, they know what it's like, and they're not going to have any problem with you asking them questions.
Absolutely. And I wish I would have asked more questions when I was just getting into it, because I feel like I'd be that many more steps ahead of where I am now.
Yeah.
Versus learning it all the hard way and the long way on my own, because I was intimidated, scared. I didn't want to be ill received by somebody who knew what they were doing. Like, who's this little punk kid coming up and asking me, how to do a certain movement, right? Well, now looking at those kids who maybe they think they feel like a little punk kid, I wish they would just come up and ask, because I'm down for advice and giving some input anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the things that you would tell yourself now if you were the old guy at the gym when you were just getting started?
If I was the old guy?
If you were the old guy at the gym when you were first getting started, what are some of the things you would tell yourself?
Man, if I was the old guy in the gym just getting started, probably don't be discouraged.
If you were the old guy in the gym if instead you said they were old, they were the people that are your age now at the gym when you were first getting started in your teens. If you were that old guy in the gym when you were first getting started and when you were a teenager, and you saw yourself come in the door just getting started, what are some of the things that you would impart as the wisdom you have today on yourself as a teenager, if that makes sense? If you could go back in time and if you could go back in time and tell yourself getting started, what were like 2 or 3 things you'd tell yourself?
Yeah.
That wasn't overly complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. We took the long way around. I think just getting started, you leave a lot on the table. Like you could squeeze out another set. You can squeeze out another rep. You don't have to stop early. If you're trying to shoot for 10 to 12 reps of a certain exercise, and you stop at the 12th rep because you hit your 12th rep, you probably could have done 14, or maybe you need to throw a little bit more weight on there, push yourself.
Yeah.
Instead of just going to the goal, try to exceed the goal and then maybe ramp up the goal. I think we all, we don't give ourselves enough credit when we're just getting started. We think that we can only do a certain amount. We can actually do quite a bit more.
Yeah. I actually saw, Menno Henselman.
Yeah.
You familiar with him? He just published an article about a meta-analysis. I don't know, it might have been a study, not a meta-analysis. It was a study, an individual study, where they did a RPE experiment to see if experienced lifters could gauge their RPE better than inexperienced lifters. And it basically came out to absolutely not. That nobody is really good at determining their maximum effort in lifts. Like experience really doesn't play a role at all. That was kind of fascinating.
You're under assessing. Is that what it was?
Yeah, most people under assess.
Interesting.
Yeah. So chances are, even if you're experienced, you can probably get another rep. You can probably get another 2 reps. Yeah.
Good to know, because I got to go to the gym after we get done here. So
I'm gonna put
that to play. Yep.
I got to do buys and tries today, man. That's awesome.
Awesome.
So you've been training for how long did you say? Almost 20 years?
I would say 20 years. Yeah. 42 right now. I'm 42. So that puts me in the early 20s. Yeah. Training with actual purpose and drive, dedication, structure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 15 to 20 years of good, solid training. Before that was just kind of.
How much different are you now compared to when you started? Like, how do you, two things. How has your routine changed? How has your mindset around why you're doing it changed? 2 questions.
Yeah, those are good questions. My routine has changed to be, gosh, maybe even like simpler than, you know, when you get started, you think you have to do all these crazy advanced, you know, off the beaten path type workout routines and movements. And the simple stuff is
Gold.
as basic as you need.
It's gold, man. Absolutely.
Gold. Yeah. It's the boring stuff, you know, the push, the pull, the hinge, the squat, you know, all the just the basic movements. So I would say when you veer too far off path or off track, just get back to the basics and hit those as consistently as you can. So that's one thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then as far, what's that?
I said absolutely.
Yeah. Then as far as like mindset and viewpoint, probably kind of the similar answer. You know, back then you thought you had to do all these crazy, you know, confuse the muscles kind of stuff. Now it's just, you want to hit with intensity, you want to hit with purpose, and you want to just have, you know, a structured idea of what you're doing when you go in.
Yeah.
I suppose nowadays I've got a lot of experience behind me, so I know what movements I like really well and what movements work really well for my biomechanics. So there's certain movements that I used to do that I no longer do, and there's new movements now that I do that I never used to do. But they're all basically the same principles of the push pull, hip hinge, all that kind of stuff. Yep.
Yeah. How do you balance staying away from being overly complex with also experimenting to find new things that might work?
You know, if I see a new movement or a new form of something, I'll give it a try and see if I can work it into what I know already works. And if it's complementary in nature and seems to be a good mix, a good match, then I'll probably add that in. But
yeah,
other than that, it's always kind of just goes back to the basics.
Yeah. Yeah. If you start thinking like, okay, I gotta put this whole plan together, fit all this new stuff in all the time, then it might not be a good idea. Or, you know, what I like to do is I have the basic things, like you said, the basic movements that I hit pretty much consistently. And on an off day, or if there's a day that I'm feeling like, you know what, I'm just not going to hit it as hard today, I'm gonna do something different, then I might play around and do some experimentation, try some new concepts, throw some things in. But those are more one-offs than they are, I'm going to start throwing this into my routine. Unless I try something that's like, holy snap, this is amazing, I felt this like I haven't felt anything I've been doing before, then I'm going to be like, okay, maybe I'll do 3 or 4 weeks of this and see what kind of a result I get out of it. If it's really good after that period of time, then maybe I'll throw that in on a more frequent basis. But I like to do like the one-offs every couple of weeks, play around with a couple of things and see what happens.
Yeah, true. You know, if you're maybe 4 or 6 weeks into doing the same thing really consistently, and you want to just throw a little bit of a curveball in there just to keep the mind fresh, you know, just to be less boring, you might do that as well. But then it always comes back to getting right back on with the basics. You know, you pop off for a very brief amount of time and then you get right back into it. So
you were doing weight training. Were you bodybuilding for that entire time, or is that more recent?
Yeah, I guess everything was primarily like a bodybuilding approach as far as training split. Yeah.
So that means you went ketogenic halfway through this experience. What was that? What started that? Why did you decide to do that? And how did that whole thing work? Did you have to start from scratch? Like, what was that all about?
Yeah, so I actually did several men's physique bodybuilding competitions back in 2013, so 10 years ago. And that was before I ever adopted a ketogenic lifestyle. And I worked with a prep coach for those, and that was through a traditional, like a bro diet type prep with carb cycling and all that kind of, and then very shortly after coming out of those competitions, I just started self-experimenting because I kind of had a little bit of a repercussion because my reverse diet was off track. So I found that I felt the best when I was somewhere around 40 grams of carbs a day. And so I just continued to self-experiment from there. I felt better with less carbs. I tried carb cycling. I tried targeted keto, cyclical keto, few different variations of keto, and just found that really the lowest carb ketogenic approach worked really well for me. Granted, this was all completely like before anything was mainstream keto. You know, there was hardly anything out there for articles, for keto food products, for keto garbage everywhere. This was nine years ago. So ever since then, you know, I've just continued to adopt the ketogenic lifestyle into bodybuilding, weight training, staying active, and I've never felt better. So I don't feel like there's any reason for me to deviate from that or go back to a way of previous eating when this just feels so good. Every now and then I would throw a cheat meal in there and I'd go, you know, binge on standard American diet, and I would feel like absolute garbage for upwards of a week.
Yeah.
So for me to do that anymore, it's just not worth it. I know that's what's going to happen. So a lot of people can get by with that and enjoy doing that, but you know, everyone has their own little set of parameters that works best for them.
Right. What they can tolerate, basically. So what was the process of you changing over? Did you have, you know, I know for me, when I changed from, and I wasn't even doing standard American diet. I was basically paleo and went straight carnivore. Okay. So even with that change, I still had a good few months of just feeling like I don't have it, like it's gone. And then all of a sudden it came back. Now it came back, you know, my performance, my recovery, my strength, everything came back, and it came back hard. But there was a good probably 90 days of just like plateau, didn't feel right. Some numbers went down. I didn't have quite the energy. Like there was a changeover. Now, at the time, I wish I had known more about electrolytes. I would have slammed a lot more of electrolytes, and that would have helped the whole process move on faster. But, you know, there was a good 90 days where, you know, it was before I would go in for a workout and be like, I crushed it. It took me 90 days to feel like I could crush a workout. I could, you know, I started seeing the weight come back on the bar. I started feeling better in between workouts, all that kind of stuff. How did that work for you?
I never really had that aha moment because I was still kind of climbing out of the recent preps that I had just
kind of. You were already kind of tanked.
So I was already, I mean, I was already like, I was like at the bottom. So I tried coming out of those preps with a reverse diet, and it failed miserably. I had crazy repercussions. I gained like 30 pounds. Yeah. You know, so that's where the self-experimenting started right there.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I know a lot of people, and in my book, I have a whole section about, you know, fitness is not looks, and helping people, trying to get people to understand that, you know, some of the people that you see on Instagram that look like they're the fittest and best in shape, healthiest people ever are actually some of the people that are in the worst shape, mentally and physically. And let's talk real quick about what was it like being a bodybuilder on a standard American diet without fat, doing everything low fat, everything high carbs, everything high protein, which, you know, high protein we're all a fan of, but high protein, low fat, high carbs isn't a great mix. Getting super lean, you're barely eating any food for, you know, 2 to 4 weeks, and you're coming out of that. And then, like you said, that reverse was probably hell. What was your mindset around food, around your body, around what you were trying to do, why you were trying to do it, all those types of things coming out of that?
I think it definitely set me up to have a poor attitude with food, you know, a poor relationship with food. I remember going through prep and waking up so miserably hungry in the middle of the night that I would eat in the kitchen. And I would wake up in the morning and I would find wrappers of things that I don't even remember eating because my mind was like, dude, you need more food. Like you're going to die. So I remember that being very, very stamped in my memory.
I've never heard of sleep eating before.
Yeah. I would wake up and there'd be like 4 empty Quest bar wrappers on the counter.
you got dwarves eating your Quest bars.
Yeah, right. So, you know, and I think a lot of competitors will probably tell you that they have somewhat of either an eating disorder or a little bit of a less than desirable relationship with food in general because of the dieting and all the craziness that comes along with it. But the ketogenic approach to competition prep is quadruple fold easier than doing the standard American or the conventional prep. just because your energy is much more sustained when you're getting it from a source of fat.
100%.
So I can attest to that. For sure.
The overall inflammation is lower. Yeah, everything seems better. Then I can see that just from, I mean, I live with Natalie, who's the Keto Bikini Pro. She did a prep for last December for a show. I've know tons of bodybuilders. I've lived with more than one, and I can tell you that her prep and her post prep experience were the smoothest I have ever experienced with anybody I've ever talked to. Like we're at the show. We had to travel to Atlantic City for the show. We're driving up there. We're spending the weekend up there. All this stuff is happening. You know how those weekends can be, especially when you're traveling. There's a lot going on. You're stressed. You're trying to meet all the schedules. And for her being a WBFF, there's like 3 days of events the entire time. It's not like you just show up, go to the show. There's a media night. There's a dinner. There's a this. There's that. We got to go change and come back, and then go change and come back. Like there's a lot of stuff going on. She was a little stressed because of the weekend, but as far as her prep goes, I've never seen anybody the day before a show in a good mood.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous.
And you probably saw all the other competitors, in just like brain fog, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The brain foggy and they're bitchy. I mean, that's pretty much what it is.
Yep. That's how it is at the shows. You can see people that are just absolutely miserable, running on fumes. They're not even allowed to drink water. They're like putting ice on their lips, and it's it's so crazy. That used to be me. I did that 10 years ago, like just squeezing jelly into your mouth backstage and whatever. I mean, it works, right?
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, it does it for that. And that's the thing. It works for that 10 minutes on stage, and then you have to go back and live your life. And I think that's one of the biggest things. A lot of people look at bodybuilding as the pinnacle of fitness, when really what we're talking about is doing an extreme lifestyle for 10 or 15 minutes on stage, and then you have to go back and live your life. And I think a lot of people don't understand that the way that it's currently done by most people right now isn't healthy. It's not sustainable. A lot of people go down the drain really fast after just a couple years, even just a couple shows. I know people that did one show and they're like, nope, there's no way I'm doing this again. This is
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I agree.
So, okay, you've changed how you work out a little bit. You're not as complex. Do you work out the same number of days as you did when you started? How many days a week do you work out right now?
I usually hit the weights 5 to 6 days a week. Okay. It's more, I guess, more weeks. It's maybe 6 or 7. And sometimes I have to convince myself to take a day off or do something else or do an active recovery day, just because I feel like I'm going to miss some activity in the gym. But yeah, I mean, it's 5 to 6 days a week, pretty common, right around the 6 mark. Yeah.
How do you stay consistent? That's one of the most common questions that I get from people. Is I'm having trouble staying consistent, and my answer is usually that's because you don't want to be. But outside of that, what is your process for keeping your motivation and showing up every day?
Nobody is motivated every single day. I can definitely tell you that.
Yep.
That goes for me as well. And I might look motivated, or you might look motivated to the general public, but chances are there's days where we just do not want to work out. So when motivation is dragging ass, that's where we have to lean on our dedication, and we have to look at what we're doing, why we're doing it, why we got started. Mm-hmm. And we look back to every other time where we didn't feel like working out and how we felt after that workout. And we just have to expect that that's going to have the same outcome as this one that we don't want to do. So I mean, I'm sure you, same exact thing, Natalie, same exact thing. There's days where you're just like, man, I'm not feeling this workout. And you go to the gym and you just get tunnel vision for an hour or however long you're there, and you knock it out and you come out of it. Maybe you didn't get 100% like you normally would have gotten, but you got 85 or 90%. And that 85 or 90% was a solid, now you feel better, so it's better than a 0% any day.
Absolutely. Even if it's a 50%, right? It's better than a
exactly.
0%. You showed
exactly.
up.
Even if you
That's
just
what it
go to
takes.
even if you just get in the door, just do something, and you'll thank yourself for doing something rather than nothing, and you'll be better off long term.
For sure. What's how do you know? Let's talk about that. How do you know if you've given everything to a workout? Because that's another question that I get. How do I know if I'm working out hard enough? And sometimes I say, well, maybe hard isn't the right word you're looking for. How do you know if you've had a quality? Let's do it this way. How do you know if you've had a quality workout?
Okay. If you know, the way you can tell if you've had a quality workout is if you leave or you walk out of that workout and you feel proud of what you put in.
Yes, right? I like it.
So, and some days you're just like, man, my mind just isn't in it. I was on my phone texting too much. I was scrolling too much on TikTok while I was sitting on the machine. And you just feel like a slump, right? So you got to get your mindset back into it. And when you walk out of the gym or you clock out of that workout and you feel like, gosh, that was really good. I feel good. Good job, Greg. Good job, Bronson. Pat on the back for yourself. Then it was a good workout. Otherwise, you could have put a little bit more into it. You left a little on the table. Next time, pick it up a notch.
Ooh, I like that. You got to feel proud about what you
got to feel proud.
Okay. Yep. I like that. What does, I don't want to sound cliche, but what does fitness mean to you?
What does fitness mean? Just being active.
Okay.
Feeling good.
Okay.
Looking good, living good. And it kind of all just encompasses your way of eating, your choices throughout the day, and physical activity and challenging yourself.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's a little bit of everything, right? I mean, that sounds like, if I were to sum that up, I would say quality of life. Is that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Directly correlated, fitness to quality of life. Absolutely.
And fantastic. Just a curiosity question. What is your favorite lift and what is your most unliked lift or exercise? It doesn't have to be a lift. It could be any exercise.
My most unliked lift of all time and will always be the barbell squat.
Just really? What? That's the whole thing. That's everything, man.
Nope. I don't squat. Never squat. I don't squat.
Okay. So how'd you get them tree trunks?
Tree trunks. Mr. Doug Brignoli, if you've heard the name, heard a podcast or an interview of his many whiles ago, and he actually debunked a lot of things about the squat, the compound lower body movement. And after hearing that, I was like, all right, I'm going to put some effort into my legs. And so I did a lot of leg extensions, seated leg extensions, sissy squats, hamstring curls, dumbbell deadlifts, some things that'll really target the hams or really target the quads independently of one another.
Sure.
And I can definitely tell that has made a big improvement.
Absolutely. Definitely aesthetically. Yeah. Squats are great for what I call total body activation.
Yes.
They are not really the best for isolating anything anywhere because squats are kind of like the opposite of isolation. When you're squatting, your whole body has to work. So you can't isolate any one thing. So from a bodybuilding perspective, I actually, now that you mention it, I don't know too many bodybuilders that squat regularly. Right there, you see a lot of extension, like you said, a lot of extensions, a lot of curls, a lot of sissy squats, a lot of split squats, things like that, but not a lot of back squats.
Yeah. And I'm definitely not putting any shame on the squat movement itself. It's a great movement. It engages, like you said, it engages full body. It's a great core and stability and a balance and everything. It's great. And guys that can squat a ton of weight, that's absolutely phenomenal. I have never been able to squat really that good. I think maybe a little bit of my own natural biomechanics, it just doesn't do well with my body. So that's why that is my least favorite movement. As far as my favorite movement, boy, oh boy.
He's like, all of them.
Yeah, everything except squat. No, I love a good back day, a good pull day, like lat pull downs, I do like a barbell deadlift, conventional deadlift,
Yep.
seated rows, that kind of stuff. Anything that's a good pulling, back movements are
Okay.
probably my favorites. Yeah.
Deadlift is the best lift, right?
Yep. I like it.
I like it. Fantastic. All right, man. What are some things that you want to tell people? A lot of the people watching this channel are just getting started with fitness. They've spent 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years following a keto or carnivore diet. They've reached a point where their diet has drastically improved their health. They feel better. They can start moving their body. They feel like they're at a point where just doing nutrition hasn't gotten them really where they want to be from a quality of life perspective, and they want to start doing something with their body. What are some things that you want to leave people with, some tips on how to do that and what they should be looking for is that next step in their journey?
Definitely resistance training. So whether that mean resistance bands or free weights or machines, you want to stress the muscles, put a little stressor in there. We want to challenge ourselves. That'll force a little bit of adaptation and some muscle growth, of course. So resistance training, number one. Don't worry so much about the cardio, but it can be a component as far as overall health is concerned. I think a lot of people lean a little bit too much on the cardio side of things when they want to shoot for the weight loss.
Yep.
And I'd say flip it around, put a little bit more priority into the resistance training, but you can keep cardio as part of your component. And just challenge yourself. If something feels a little bit easy and you're scared to go heavier, push yourself a little bit. Everybody from the amateur all the way up to the pro, that's how we overcome where we're at and we improve and grow is challenging every time.
Yeah.
Just challenge yourselves.
Yeah, challenge yourself. And that can mean just getting started for some people. That could be the challenge. Just get up and do something a little bit more than what you're doing now. That's the challenge. Now, when you get used to that, then you can up the challenge a little bit.
Exactly. Yep. Little by little, incrementally at a time.
Yeah, fantastic. How long did it take you when you first got started? Like, do you set goals for like weights or things that you're looking for? Like, hey, I want to be able to bench press this amount or deadlift this amount, or do you pretty much set your goals based on your aesthetics when you're getting ready for a show? Like, I'm trying to get to this look.
Yeah, it kind of boils down to where I'm at with what's going on. So I had done some lifting competitions many years ago, and like when that's the scenario is then you have goals for strength. So it kind of changes the way that you train, right? Your rep ranges, your training weights, your rest periods, all that stuff. But right now, I guess, it's more or less just for getting a good, solid, strenuous workout in that I can walk away from knowing that I really, really challenged my muscle tissue and forced it to overcome and grow. So right now it's just probably a hypertrophy gauged approach for rep ranges, movements, rest timing, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So just to clarify, we'll end on this. I want to make sure that we're totally clear that you are 42. You're currently bodybuilding. You just took home some metal. You just took home some hardware from a competition. You're ketogenic. You don't need any carb. You carnivore, keto. Like, what's your carb intake per day?
Carb intake right now is 10 or less in prep because I've got 2 more shows coming up.
Oh my goodness! So you're doing multiple shows in a period of time.
Yeah,
and you're maintaining show ready on keto at 42 years old. Okay. And you've been able to put on muscle over the past couple of years. Do you have more muscle than the last show? When was the last show you did?
Yeah. I did a couple shows with Robert back in the fall of 2021.
Okay, so it's been 2 years, almost 2 years since your last set of shows. You've been able to put on muscle. You've been ketogenic the whole time.
Yep. And at the peak of my off season, I was probably close to 4,000 calories a day.
That's crazy, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. And you feel good. You don't have a bad relationship with food. You're not obsessed over eating. You're not all cranky and hangry the week of your show. You're not stuffing your face with donuts after the show. and you're
No,
not
gosh, no.
hormonally out of balance and just crazy for the next month and a half after the show.
Right. Right. I'm actually, I had my hormones and my sex level hormones and test and everything tested during off season. So I'm going to shoot to get those tested again, just to kind of see where they're at, because that's one of the things a lot of competitors in the traditional approach deal with is just tanked testosterone.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna get it checked and just see, because I feel good. My mental cognition is good. All that stuff that's related to hormone production and systems is feeling pretty good.
Cool, man. Where can people find you?
Instagram is where I'm probably the most lively, at ketogreg80. And then I also got a Facebook page and some other odds and ends, but Instagram is probably the top one.
Okay, fantastic, man. I'll put that in there, and I think you posted a picture of you flexing on stage from your last show. I'll make that the thumbnail for this video.
Yes,
That'll
perfect. Yeah, I just got the pictures back, so I got to go through those and take a look at those. But that one that I posted is my favorite shot. So
awesome. That'll be on here, man. Cool. Appreciate it. Thanks for being on.
Appreciate it, Dan.